Today I want to talk about my favorite organ, the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the only organ that you can actually train to grow larger and thus become more effective with this training. And I have been actively training my hippocampus for years now. And I lost my wallet recently, and I found out that all of my training has been working because I did not panic. The hippocampus is in charge of memory, but specifically like memory storage, like from short term to long term. It's in charge of spatial processing, and it's also in charge of regulating emotions. And in times of crisis, it's also in charge of your fight or flight response. And as a survivalist and a prepper, training your hippocampus to grow larger so you have more control over your fight or flight response is actually a very productive way to spend your time and can be more effective than hoarding food and resources, because those things can be taken away at any time, but you always have access to your data processing. I read a book once that referenced the hippocampus response to the people on the Titanic. And so if you had a small hippocampus with no training, then you would go into the fight or flight response, where you would run around screaming, not knowing what was going on, or maybe you had your panic response was just to sit still and just pretend everything was okay. But if you had already trained your hippocampus, then you would go into this very slowed down response where you could see everything that was going on, you could make decisions based on the data, you had a spatial reference to everything, you were processing all of what was happening in real time and using it in with other stored data to your reference points. All things that are really difficult to do when you're in a crisis situation. And it's really not like this shame thing about having a small hippocampus, because there's a lot of things that can actually shrink your hippocampus, including trauma. And PTSD is one of the common correlations between a smaller hippocampus organ and these trauma responses. Stress and trauma will actually shrink this organ and then give you less access to these emotional regulation tools and tools that you would need in chaotic situations to stay centered and grounded. And it could be that a lot of the anxieties that people are feeling, especially anxieties that will cause you to be really avoidant, push things away or run away from things, are actually a direct result of you having a small hippocampus. So now that you know, the time is now to get to work. How do you train your hippocampus? It's actually really easy. One of the main ways to train your hippocampus is to do things that are new to you or learn new things. Gaining new knowledge and trying new things, exposing your body, your mind, your spirit to new experiences will actually grow this organ. And the other thing is doing things that involve all of your senses. So that's why Navy SEALs will use this technique by putting soldiers in chaotic situations, and then doing that over and over and over and over, so their body and mind is trained to sort of be in these really intense situations where they have to use their eyes, their ears, they have to feel things out, they have to use their intuition. All of these things are activated, and that will sort of put you into this slowed down state. And all the Navy SEALs, they want that state. They want access to that state. It's like a superhero state. They're really training to get access to that. So, do you want to be a superhero and show up as your best self for your community in times of crisis? Then now is the time to start training. All you gotta do is open your mind.